Hey, how's it going? Video today is titled RUDD versus Kahlil Tatum. Two male figures who were possibly fatherly figures to Relisha RUDD, but not completely, because to have one individual such as a male Kahlil Tatum in your life and say not have another male father figure such as a RUDD, the same man that shares the same last name as a Relisha RUDD. That is because somebody questioned, well, Relisha, her father is RUDD. That doesn't mean anything. Do you know in this day and age, and even back when I was born back in the 80s, that the mother had the right of whether she wanted to put, say, a father's name? Any individual, women do that today, or say they pick a male that is really not the child's father and have him on the birth certificate, and he's not even the child's father. Not even nowhere near biological father is all I'm saying. Just because a person has the same last name as another individual as a child, just because a child has the same last name as an adult man does not mean that that child belongs to that individual, meaning that may or may not be the child's father. Just because they share same last name, that means nothing at all. It's all type of women that lay down with all type of men that in fact give her children these men's last name, and the men are not even the father. Anybody can step up around the time of delivering room, the process of that, and say an individual being a woman's boyfriend and say he pronounces his own name on the child's birth certificate as being the child's father, while the birth biological father of the child is nowhere to be found. That sort of thing, in fact, happens and takes place. So that could have been one of these situations with Relisha, because in the eyes of mine, when I look at RUDD and I look at Relisha's RUDD photograph side by side, nowhere on the dotted line do they look anything alike. Relisha, in fact, looks more like Kahlil Tatum more than anything, more than her own self. Yes, she does. That's not a joke or a player word, but Relisha, in fact, looks a lot like Kahlil Tatum. I'm just stating, specifically, women are known of all kinds, not everybody, but there is more so drug users and abusers. Females have been known. That's why their baby daddies and all that, when it all get mixed up and them having to go on Maury Povich and all them type of shows, because anytime you're a drug addict, you're not a self-aware individual as things are going down in the bedroom, such as you unzipping your pants or panties in the process of laying down with anybody, because to need drug money and all that other stuff or whatever sometimes is to lay down with anybody. For me to recognize even that is to know where I grew up at, and the things that you see where it's all type of mix-ups as who could be the child's father, because, well, the child does share a last name with such and such. That doesn't mean anything. That don't mean anything. That don't mean anything. Let me tell you, that don't mean anything. My father's name ain't even nowhere on my birth certificate, and yet I was around a man as I got older just about every single day. Biological father at that. So I'm just saying, don't never allow yourself to be confused at the fact that, well, that child shares the same last name. That don't mean anything. So I said it's a very scary thing to think of if, say, RUDD is not Relisha's real biological father, and yet someone else could be. Someone else could be the child's father, such as a Kahlil Tatum, and not RUDD. Let me ask you a question. I said, do you think RUDD will want to kill the mother of his child, his supposed child, if she lied to him about him being the father despite him not being the father? So basically, I'm saying, if you notice, Shamika, when Relisha went missing, if you notice, Shamika, the child's mother, never came out and grieved and said, oh, I feel so sad that I sent Relisha with Kahlil. I'm so sad that I allow her to be around Kahlil because he killed himself and now I don't know where my child is, right? Yes, she could have possibly sold her own child, but notice she never speaks anything negative or of harm towards Kahlil Tatum. That's because there is in fact something more there, and possibly he could in fact be the child's father despite him going off committing suicide. Kahlil Tatum and not Irving Rudd. Do you know how many black women in fact get in arguments with black males because many of them sleep with so many men they don't even know who the child's father is, which is why even the child themselves go in the dark and confusion and not knowing, and one day grow up 20 years later and find out that their father is somebody else. That is a hurtful thing. Mothers are known to keep that sort of thing secret, and I think with Shamika Young, I think she has a fear or something of Irving Rudd himself. Because she might in fact have been sleeping with that man, possibly girlfriend and boyfriend with that man, had maybe another kid or two by Irving Rudd. But somewhere in the mixture, I still sense and think she might have either been secret lovers with Kahlil Tatum, or she might have just had sex with him while she was high or something. Something could have happened and she could have gotten pregnant by Kahlil Tatum. And that's why she never, even on a Steve Wilkos show, came out and said anything such as held remorse of even her allowing the little girl to go with him in the first place. She won't say anything negative about the man is what I'm saying. Shamika Young, she never says anything negative about Kahlil Tatum, and there's a definite reason why. That man more than likely was that child's father. And to know that a Irving Rudd can be a killer, as in he killed a 8 or 9 month old baby and went to jail, served time in the form of murder, is to say even Shamika herself can possibly even fear a Irving Rudd, knowing he does those sort of things. He killed his own daughter, Irving Rudd. So I'm thinking Shamika possibly wouldn't want to say too much because she possibly lied to even Irving Rudd about Relisha being his, and it might not even be true. Yep, all I'm saying is, do you think an Irving Rudd would kill Shamika Young, Relisha's mother, if she had him believing Relisha Rudd was his child and daughter, when even he might not be the child's father? Do you think Irving Rudd would do that sort of thing, seeming he committed murder before? It's just a standing question. I'm saying the look of terror I could only imagine if a day were to come, if that were a secret in which I just stated, and say someone outside of Shamika herself would out that information. Only Shamika knows who her child's father is and was. I think she feared Irving Rudd or something. Is he in and out of jail right now, Irving Rudd? Because see, crack addicts, did I say this in? Oh, by the way, like, subscribe in the Discovery Channel. Yes, the Discovery Channel, the link is provided below. I meant to say that in the intro. Because see, you know, women that are on drugs, I stated that in the beginning of the video, I think. They have a desperation to gain a drug. And sometimes they will sleep with any moving object to have access to drugs. And that could in fact have been one of these situations, because see, all of us human beings have secrets, as in the closet ourselves, right? And so I'm thinking Shamika herself might have laid down with Kahlil randomly. We don't even know, pertaining to drugs. Hold on. She probably, see, I keep sensing and I keep believing that Shamika, when the baby was first born, she might have been having sex between, say, Kahlil Tatum as well as having sex with Irving Rudd. I keep thinking and sensing Shamika Young might have just given Relisha Irving Rudd's last name. That Rudd, that stands out the most. I'm thinking Shamika did that. Because women usually sometimes do that. If you're black, or maybe white, they're more so black, there's many people that in fact give their child somebody else's last name. You have people that be so in love I'm talking about women that be so in love and infatuated with other individuals. Sometimes they will give their baby the first name and the last name, and that other individual ain't even nowhere in the picture. They might just came and visited the hospitals, or but they can't be with the other person because, say, the person is married off to somebody or whatever, but they wanted the child to have a piece of that other individual, right? You can't, I mean, crackheads, you don't never know. Yep, crackheads usually have many. I'm not saying she is one. You can observe and see that Shamika is something, high on something, but they do open their legs for anything. And that will make any man mad to figure out that you lied and told him that that he's the father, and come to find out that ain't true, because you never know what type of relationship she had with even the Irving Rudd. Yes, supposedly she has other children with him, but you never know. Women are known to creep out and sneak out and all that, having sex with other people. I feel Shamika had to have known Kahlil much longer than she's saying. I think that is one of the biggest secrets. I think because she never says anything negative about that man. I sense and believe Shamika had to have known Kahlil much longer than she's saying, and possibly much more longer than, say, that stay at that homeless shelter that they were at. They possibly knew each other because, see, street individuals that practice street activities such as drugs, being involved in drug selling, or being drug users, that is in fact street activity. So you meet people along the way, sometimes even before you get to another job or get to wherever have access to a homeless shelter. So Kahlil and Shamika, I can believe that they possibly, yes, once again, knew each other before Shamika found her way to that homeless shelter. Because street individuals, trust and believe, street people, they know each other well, as in a lot of other individuals know them just as much in the streets. So that's a connection. She probably knew him through some. And not only that, the reason why I say that is because Irving Rudd, supposedly Shamika's father, Irving Rudd, supposedly that man has had a history as being a custodian. Yes, a janitor. Irving Rudd himself had a job as being a janitor, just like Kahlil Tatum has been a custodian and a janitor. See what I'm going with this? Quite interesting that Shamika has been involved with not just one man, but two men that both had the same job. Not at the same location, but they both were janitors. That's a connection as well. I don't know if anybody recognized that, but I looked it up. The research is in the facts of what I just stated. Shamika was involved with not one man, but two men that held the same job. Yep, crackheads and drug addicts, they keep all kind of connections around them. Even if it's in the form of a shelter and knowing people before they get to certain shelters and all that. That's what street activity is about. Yep. So I think that's all to be stated for now. Shamika, she does. That's not to belittle her or nothing, but Shamika has too many men to begin with. She might see this video. She might need to. Maybe somebody will smack her with some common sense. We all got to be smacked. When people say, oh, don't talk like that. No, we all, in fact, got to be knocked with some common sense, because that helps to improve your life. To be knocked with common sense is either let somebody else do it to you, knock you with some common sense, or let life do it to you. When life come and knock you with common sense, it's the worst ever. Sometimes it could be tragic enough. Some people don't even live through it. When life knock you with common sense. So yeah, Shamika she has too many men to begin with, which leaves so many into confusion of who the children's father is. It's like you almost have to sort through her men for clues. Also, it's been stated that Irving Rudd wanted to take Shamika Young to court for custody of Relisha in 2012. But once again, that doesn't mean Irving Rudd was a father either, because even family members and sometimes friends, there have in fact been situations where friends have been known to want to take the mother of certain children away from individuals because of drug use, street activity, and all type of things. So even Irving Rudd himself, even if he wasn't the child's parent, he could have just been Shamika's friend and wanted to take her to court. I'm sure even Kahlil Tatum could have wanted to do that sort of thing, or could have, if he wanted to. If he was still alive, Kahlil Tatum could have possibly taken Shamika to court to obtain custody or something, or try to fight for custody. Because to have a woman living in the streets like that is to know that any friend or family member could want custody of your child. Because they feel like that the child is not being properly raised. Which is why some friends actually of individuals who are deep in drugs, why they sometimes do obtain custody of those sort of children when their mommy and daddy is on drugs like that. They don't want to see them suffer through that. You got business associates that have obtained custody. So just because of Irving Rudd wanted to take Shamika Young to court to obtain custody back in 2012 of Relisha, that doesn't mean that he's the father. No, it doesn't. That completely does not mean. She does have, I think, one or two other children, supposedly, like Irving Rudd. I stated that before. But that doesn't mean that Relisha is his child. No. No. The court system is full of individuals who try to obtain custody of children who aren't theirs. It all depends on the situation and the home life. Because if Shamika is not living in a house and she's in and out of shelters, she could be cool with somebody that owns a business that will possibly have wanted to take Relisha and go through the court system and then fight for custody to take the child up out of the mother's hands, because that shows an unstable, unfit life is what it does. And that's not speaking down on people, but children and shit, that's not the best environments to raise children long term. That's like a short term, which is why some people take you to court to begin with. I wonder if there was on file any DNA testing of if Irving Rudd was tested to see if Relisha was truly his daughter based upon DNA. Cause yeah, she don't look like him at all. She looked just like Kahlil Tatum. And everybody has stated that, everybody feels that. There's no like and resemblance to a Irving Rudd. No, it's not. You never know what the mix-up was. Yeah, see, Shamika, she has a poor choice in men. Yes, she does, because to not only be involved with baby killers, you done got involved with a man that committed suicide. She's just known to get involved with abusive men and murderers. She has a poor choice of men as well. That's so obvious. I was waiting on the Steve Wilkos show for her to say something like, I feel so, sad, because for you not to say nothing about the man that your child was around, Kahlil Tatum, for her not to say anything or not even speak on Kahlil at all. She didn't say anything pertaining to Kahlil about, that's so sad, may he rest in peace. Something was going down on they end, such as Andrea and Kahlil. She didn't say anything. She just left a blank canvas for you, the viewer, to figure it out. Shamika, I'm saying. That is a mess. She had to been having sex before with Kahlil before she that woman had to have been having sex with Kahlil before she got to the shelter. I think that's all for now. So, nobody on YouTube has questioned this, or maybe they have. I don't know, because I don't watch enough videos on that. But I'm in question of how would Shamika feel? Yes, that people are in fact questioning who the daddy could have been. Because somewhere in this that doesn't align. You don't never say anything about Kahlil himself. You had to have been close with the man, dear Shamika. You had to have been close with the man enough to let your child go with him, and yet to not offer no sincerity after he dies. That's strange in itself. Did anybody recognize that this man took her child up out of her hands so that she can party, use drugs, and have fun, as well as the grandmother, so that they can enjoy their life being drug addicts, right? Kahlil took the time out of his hands, even if he was sex trafficking. Relisha, how sad that sounds, but she looked too much like him, right? But for that man to take the child up out of their hands so that they can party and all that other stuff, he hopefully didn't sex traffic little Relisha, but he in fact did a good deed in that, so that the child didn't have to watch their mother and grandmother get off on drugs, right? In the process, I'm thinking even Shamika would have came out her mouth and said, well, you know, I'm thankful and grateful that he watched over my child, or something, or said something of sympathy, even in covering her ass on the end. And yet she didn't do any of that. I wonder why. Because see, that the issue of it is, you got a little girl that looks just like the man, which means Shamika possibly lied somewhere, right? And then you got questioning of the sex trafficking issue. But I just keep sensing there's much more. There's much more by Shamika being covered, as in being glazed over, of why she don't even want no connection with Kahlil himself. And the only thing I could really think of is when I think about it, when I'm asked this question, the only thing I can think of is she possibly fears getting murdered by RUDD. I just said that 4 times. That's the only thing in that, as in the conclusion. Do you think Shamika, knowing that RUDD is a murderer, do you think she feared that type of thing? Because I'm sure RUDD had to have been watching Steve Wilkos' show like everybody else. Who wouldn't? Because to know that the woman Shamika is known to lay down with possibly anybody, could be even RUDD questioning himself if he could really be Relisha's father. You never know what grown men think and yet never say. It's a lot of things that grown men think and they don't say. So that's all to be said for now. I'm trying to cut my video short. I'm trying to start cutting my videos short, because sometimes I talk over and over, but people, they don't pay attention, and then they want you to explain this over. Why? Explain it 5 or 6 times in 3 different circles, and 5 different circles, and 6 different circles, and you didn't get it. Even pertaining to that Asia degree video, which is why I kept going over and over, saying stuff over and over. Said it 6 times, so you shouldn't really, whatever. But yeah, that's all to be said. I'ma holla back. It's burning.